over 2,000 years ago in what now is southern Italy. Pompeii was a thriving metropolis. However, the Mount Vesuvius volcano sent 20 kilometers of hazardous Gaza and smoke into the air, which quickly reached the town, causing Pompeii and many of its 10,000s inhabitants to perish under a layer of ash. Almost instantly, it is difficult to explore the ruins without feeling a sense of loss. The city is frozen in time, held in place by a covering hardened volcanic ash. Scientists have long been exploring the ruins, and now a recent find has been added to its poignancy. In the ruins, archaeologists came across a room that tells a somber yet moving tale. So come along as we dive into the ashes of the ancient Roman city and explore the mysterious discovery that has left scientists stand in their tracks a few miles from the Bay of Naples. Pompeii was a thriving provincial center in its 79 with a population of between 10,000 and 20,000 people. Its tiny lanes were made even smaller by street vendors, and businesses with protruding cloth owings were crowded with tavern patrons, slaves, and quite a few tourists. Flowing water from the lower Apennine Mountains were brought into the city by a massive new aqueduct, gushing from the fountains even into private homes. However, the rich black earth of the area was the secret to Pompeii's wealth as well. That of the surrounding smaller villages like Aplantis and Terzinio. Pompeii residents were unaware that the mountain was a volcano because it hadn't erupted in 1,800 years, and when the Vesuvius exploded, they paid a terrible price for their innocence. Pompeians may have noticed the warning signs if Roman knowledge had been more geological and less mythological. This is because large portions of the city were still being rebuilt after a significant earthquake devastated much of it 17 years before. Plus, the town had been shaken by a minor earthquakes earlier in the month before it erupted, and the town's wealth had abruptly dried up before the mountain fully exploded on August 24th around 1 in the afternoon. When the tragedy began, the deadly ash and tiny pumice stones shower were an effective warning. However, more than 2,000 people remained behind him, cowering inside buildings, while an estimated 80 of Pompeii's population most likely fled for the security of nearby communities. By dusk, the debris storm had become more deadly and denser. Rocks that were on fire pelted the city, and building roofs started to fall in. Panicked holdouts now poured into Pompeii's winding rubble-filled streets from their hiding places in basement and other floors. Visiting the ruins is like traveling across time as bodies decayed and created holes in the ash. Surprisingly, it actually helped preserve structures, artwork, and even shapes of the bodies, all of which made it possible for specialists to fill in the blanks that may have not been preserved at many other Roman sites. Scientists think Pompeii was a thriving in town where wealthy Romans would vacation because of what they discovered. High walkways and stepping stones were present on well-paved streets to avoid people from sleeping in the mud, or people could unwind by taking a bath in a public bath, watching gladiators fight or chariot races in amphitheater, or watching plays in two theaters. Studies of the aftermath threw a lot of light on Pompeii's class structure. Many eruption victims vanished with armies of money and jewelry, but many more perished without any. The house of the Menander, one of the greatest residents in the city, experienced the intensifying rain of ash and stones that night, blocking doors and windows on the ground level and pouring through atrium skylights. 10 individuals with a single lamp struggle desperately to ascend to the second level of the entrance's whole premium is filled floor in the pitch blackness. Most likely slaves. 3 more toiled with a pickaxe and a hole to excavate an escape path in a nearby hole that faced the courtyard. They all passed away. Only a few coins, glass beads, and their tools were all they left behind. The one thriving seaside metropolis was destroyed, and all those had it. There is no doubt that the explosion in 79 AD was what catapulted the mountain to the fame or notoriety it enjoys today, even though the volcano has erupted numerous times before in history. According to one eyewitness, the population was blanketed in darkness as dust poured over the landscape like a river. Numerous people perished in the thousands, and Pompeii was abandoned for many years. However, the city was still there when explorers arrived in 1748, having been preserved by volcanic ash. So Pompeii became a well-liked location for researchers and archaeologists to investigate it. They discover what life must have been like in the past there. But Pompeii continues to have many undiscovered treasures, despite having been extensively explored. In fact, it's even been named the most explored archaeological finding in the world while digging for artifacts that tell motels about the ancient city. Archaeologists recently stumbled across a hidden forbidden room, the Chatsum, light on how slaves lived before the destruction. The artifact was found after searching a property near Pompeii. The room was apparently a secret room that contained 3 wooden beds as well as other items including jars, pitchers, and a chamber pot at house slaves who were considered to be the property of others and were and regarded as human beings, according to Roman law. The old villa, known as Sevilla Giuliana, contains discovered slave room, a ceremonial carriage, and the skeletons of horses. By the sables were discovered there earlier this year by archaeologists, a wooden trunk with metal and fabric fragments that might have been a component of the horse's harness were placed on top of the slaves' mattresses, showing that the stables must have been taken care of by the slaves. Additionally, the last bed, with 1.4 meters longer and was apparently intended for a youngster. Whether the other 2 beds were 1.7 meters longer, the researchers were particularly taken aback by how little. The room was just 16 square meters, and with atomorphy 2 Roman jars located in the corners, it most likely served as a storage area. Archaeologists have explained that this phase, which was between a dormitory and a storage room, is small and unstable. There was no indication of any sort of decoration, and the lone window that would have let in light was located quite high upon the wall, although historians were aware that the Roman Empire was largely established through slavery. It was unclear how slave owners handle their charges. This discovery offers a unique window into what it must have been like to be a slave, as the most well-known historical narratives were written by affluent men. Thus, those from the lower were social strata, and slaves risk staying unknown. In the big historical chronicles, more examination and exploration of the slave room, in the scholar's opinion, will aid in learning more about slavery under the Roman Empire. Even without the presence of significant treasures, it has become one of the most thrilling finds in some archaeologists' careers, as they believe the real treasure in this place is the human experience, particularly that of the most defenseless people in the old society, to which this room is a testimony. Unsurprisingly, public structures and lovely villas are the subject of a lot of investigation. However, Alice and his group were curious about how the underclass lived. Robert Ellis teaches classics at the University of Cincinnati and serves as co-director of the Porta Sabia Pompeii archaeological research project. His research group uncovered a previously unexplored area of the city, which is a bit of a lost area because there were no substantial homes on this block. When the area was first cleaned of rubbish in the 1870s, it was left in ruins and became completely overgrown. They came across a straightforward community with homes and stores explaining in horrific details how many people perished on that block. Ellis stated that they were digging in a location where many Pompeians perish during the eruption, and he always had to remind himself that the fact that they can study this old Roman culture in such depth is due directly to a terrible human catastrophe. For so long, history was written by the affluent, but the slaves' chamber and impoverished areas provide insight into hitherto unseen lives. Hopefully, other fans will share the tale that are on the verge of extinction. Although Pompeii's destruction may have occurred in the distant past, geologists are very certain that Mount Vesuvius is ready for another significant eruption. Fortunately, today's residents living close to the volcano will probably get warnings to leave before eruption. What are your thoughts about the city and its recent discovery?